Well, guys, if you're a Luigi Mangione fan, because that's a thing now, then I guess I have some good news for you guys. New York prosecutors may have trouble proving first-degree murder charge against Luigi Mangione, legal experts say. The prosecutor on this case has already been switched out. I believe we're on the second prosecutor now. The first prosecutor that was going to oversee this case was openly saying that he wanted to give this guy the the maximum possible punishment. They were going to give him a life sentence. Just life in prison was what the previous prosecutor was planning on. Now there is another prosecutor that has replaced that one. They've swapped out. I don't know why, but that just happened. And this prosecutor has suggested 15 to 20 years with the ability to get off on parole for good behavior. And just to serve some of that time on parole for good behavior. That is the idea floated by the current prosecutor. So Luigi's situation went from life in prison to 15 to 25 years, and some of that time can be served outside of prison on probation. That is actually a very, very big turn of events for our boy. I mean, not our boy. We don't support this. We're against this. I do not endorse. I do not.
On November 24th.
But CNN attached this this video clip. New York DA reveals Mangione's play-by-play seconds before and after the CEO's killing. So apparently they're going to have a hard time proving that this was premeditated first-degree murder. It was. I mean, objectively it was. He planned this. He set it up. He figured out, like, here's how I'm going to get there. Here's how I'm going to kill him. He carved the words into the casings. He had a plan to get out, clearly, and then he got caught. This is very clearly first-degree murder, definitionally speaking. I have no clue how they could have a hard time proving it. I'd be surprised, but let's see. Let's see. What's the deal with this case?
Fourth, we allege that the defendant arrived in New York City to murder Brian Thompson. After the defendant arrived in New York City on a bus at Port Authority, he checked into the hostel on the Upper West Side using the name Mark Rosario with a fake New Jersey ID. On the morning of December 4th, the defendant left the hostel, just after 5:30 a.m. and traveled to Midtown. For nearly an hour, we allege the defendant waited in the area near the Hilton Hotel, waiting for Mr. Thompson to appear. From 6:38 a.m. to 6:44 a.m., the defendant stood across from the entrance of the hotel on West 54th Street. When he saw Mr. Thompson, he crossed the street and approached him from behind. We allege he then took out a 9mm 3D printed ghost gun, equipped with a 3D printed suppressor, and shot him once in the...
It was a 3D printed Glock. Huh. Who was it that suggested it would be 3D printed? They were right. I was actually right about it being a Glock, but I didn't think it would be 3D printed. I thought it would be like a proper Glock bought from the company, like one made by the company. That's crazy. Damn, it is a ghost gun. Yeah, so this is actually a really good example of why, like, banning guns, especially in America, wouldn't work. Because you can just do this. Like, you can literally, with, like, a machine that is unregulated and you're allowed to own a 3D printer. People use them to, like, make Warhammer minis and stuff. Or make their 3D models out of, like, resin. You can make a gun with a 3D printer. Like, you can do that. And people who want to do bad things, or in this case, most of you would probably say not bad things, but, you know, illegal things, they would not be stopped by it being, like, hard to find a gun. They would just do this. Difficult for poor people? I guess you're not wrong there, but this guy wasn't poor, clearly. He 3D printed that thing. Plus, even if it was hard to make them, like, people would just mass 3D print these guns and sell them, and it would become a whole new black market. Anyway, we're not getting stuck on the gun stun lock thing.
In the back and once in the leg. The defendant then fled northeast on 54th Street and took an e-bike uptown before getting into a taxi that took him to West 178th Street and Amsterdam Avenue. On December 9th, the defendant was spotted at McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania. The local police were notified, he was arrested, and he was found with a 9.
Someone said, I forget who it was, but someone said if he had gone to Waffle House instead, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. I think we can all agree there's not a single Waffle House employee in the country that would have snitched on him. No shot. No shot would a single solitary Waffle House employee in this country call the cops in the sky. Never. Not one.
9mm handgun, a suppressor, 2 ammunition magazines, and the same fake New Jersey ID he used at the hostel.
We have seen a shocking and appalling celebration of cold-blooded murder.
Dude, why don't we talk about why people are celebrating it? Like, are Americans just delusional about, like, left, right, center, across the board, bipartisan agreement among Americans? Holy shit. The insurance industry sucks. American healthcare is garbage. I do not like the state of being an American, and the worst, like if you get into a car accident, you might just be financially ruined for the rest of your life. If you're like middle or lower class, like it can be that much that just puts you behind forever, right? Yeah, people just don't like these insurance companies. These are companies whose, to be clear, the point of health insurance companies is that you pay like a monthly subscription for something you hope you never have to use, right? You would pay for a plan, right? And the plans get more expensive the better they are. Obviously, the more things they cover, the more that they cover, because most health insurance plans typically require you pay some amount out of pocket. Usually like 20% of the cost has to come out of pocket, and they pay off the other 80% as long as it's not like... So, like, you might need a separate health insurance plan that includes dental, for example, right? And so the more things you want to include that can be covered, you have to pay more year by year. And yes, this means you only have to pay, say, 20% out of pocket for a health cost or some checkup or surgery or anything like that, and it's way cheaper, and a lot of it is paid by your insurance. You still, years and years and years, assuming everything is going fine, you're paying them just in case. And their interest is the interest of these health insurance companies to avoid paying out as much as possible. It is in their interest for as many people to remain healthy and never end up having to use their insurance while still paying for it. And when people do try to make a claim, that's the downside of their business model. It is their prerogative to try and lessen the financial hit they take from having to fulfill a claim as possible. I don't know if there's any cases where, like, claims are denied in objectively illegal ways by these large insurance companies. I'm sure it happens, but I have no evidence personally. What I know is that whether you think private insurance needs to be abolished or if you think private insurance needs to be massively reformed and regulated, most Americans agree the current state it exists in now, for one reason or another, is garbage and unacceptable and unlivable. And there's a certain point where it's like when it's people's health, like, you're born with the body you have, the health that you have, and when your body starts to give out on you, when your health starts to go away, that's your life. Like, the vehicle that you experience the world through is damaged and may never be repairable. You may be doomed to die from a terminal illness, or in some cases, a disease that does not need to be terminal, but you can't afford the treatment. You get to that level of fucking the lives or fucking up the lives of people, it's kind of understandable why they might consider vigilante action like this acceptable or even praise it. This attempt to, like, shame people who aren't crying over the CEO's death is so transparent. No one is falling for it. Left, right, center, doesn't matter. No one's falling for it.
Social media has erupted with praise for this cowardly attack. People ghoulishly plastered posters threatening the other CEOs, with an X over Mr. Thompson's picture.
They're so bad. Ooh. Did you hear that the state of New York or actually it's her, the NYPD commissioner, in order to specifically protect CEOs, is going to be creating a helpline specifically for corporate CEOs to report threats made against their lives. I'm not joking. New York is moving to create a special 911 line, a special police line specifically for CEOs to get special treatment and report, the real... Because, like, if you're a normal person and someone on the internet tells you they're going to come to your house and they're going to murder you, and you tell the police, they're going to tell you to cry them a river and call them when there's an actual threat. They're not going to do anything about it. But apparently they're setting up a special call line for CEOs who feel threatened to have random people go get arrested because they threatened a CEO. Mind you, making a threat over the internet to a random person, the cops do nothing. Like, legitimately, legally, objectively, the cops do nothing about that. But they are creating a special line for CEOs to report, like, threats and harassment to the police. So it can be taken seriously, and they know which calls to take seriously. Genuinely. Like, the most tone-deaf shit I've ever seen.
As though he was some sort of a sick trophy. And yesterday, the New York Post reported that some extreme activists were circulating a deck of cards.
The New York Post? Bitch, I know you're like the NYPD commissioner, okay? I get it. That is the New York Post, okay? You guys recognize their logo, right? This is a tabloid paper. This is a literal fake news tabloid paper. It's not the New York Times. It's the New York Post. A literal bullshit tabloid paper. I love how she's holding up a newspaper, too, in the year of our Lord, 2024.
With other most wanted CEOs to be targeted for assassination. These are the threats of a lawless, violent mob who would trade in their own vigilantism for the rule of law that protects us all. Let me say this plainly.
Wait, they would trade in their own vigilantism for the rule of law that protects us all. I think what she meant to say was they would trade the rule of law that protects us all for their own vigilantism, is I think what she meant to say. Which is hilarious because I think she's reading a script.
There's no heroism in what Mangione did. This was a senseless act of violence. It was a cold and calculated crime that stole a life and put New Yorkers at risk. We don't celebrate murder.
It put New Yorkers at risk, guys. He was clearly on a spree. He was going to go out and kill so many more random New Yorkers. It's not like this was an extremely targeted attack, and that's the entire claim from the prosecutor, was that this was premeditated, planned first-degree murder. Like, it's not like, come on. Like, why not just stick with the argument of he was a human, he was a person, he didn't hurt anybody, he did not deserve to die, you should not celebrate death. If they kept it at that, I would at least be able to say they're not going too shameless with it, but going all in on this, like, they're a mob, they're evil. It's like, oh my god, dude. Like, way to polarize the people against you even more in your desire to publicly refuse to recognize why people are upset.
Murders, and we don't lionize the killing of anyone. And any attempt to rationalize this is vile, reckless, and offensive to our deeply held principles of justice.
It's just so interesting because it feels like most people that I've spoken to, regardless of their politics, their age, their upbringing, their background, they default to seeing this guy as a good guy. Luigi Mangione. Like, when my mom first heard about this story, her initial reaction was, man, maybe the kids are all right. I've talked to a lot of people about this, even people that aren't super into politics, and they're like, they don't necessarily celebrate it. Like, celebrating him and worshiping the guy isn't as common as you would, as the internet would lead you to believe, but no one is crying over this dead CEO. Even the people who are a little uncomfortable with the celebration of Luigi are like, but also I don't think anybody should really feel bad for this CEO. Like, nobody is willing to come out, besides these people, are willing to come out and say, yeah, I think it's wrong to not be sad about this guy's death. Like, no one's doing that bit. No normal people, I should say, are doing that bit. It's genuinely crazy to see something so unanimously, like something that unites everyone so much, and then to see the government and the media's response be to desperately try to convince everyone, left, right, and center, that they're wrong. It's like, no, I mean, like, it's not even like trying to polarize the right against the left or the left against the right. It's just saying it's wrong, and nobody agrees with them. I don't know what they expected. I really don't know. Yeah, it's really crazy to see, like, especially in, like, the comment sections of Matt Walsh and Ben Shapiro's videos defending the CEO, to see the left and the right hugging it out over hating the people, trying to convince you need to be sad over the death of the CEO. I don't think you need to celebrate it. I certainly don't think you need to imitate that action. But let's be real. No one in their right mind is or should be sad about this CEO getting shot, okay? It's like you hear about, like, a cartel boss getting captured by a rival cartel and having his throat slit and his tongue made into a Colombian necktie, and you're like, you don't cry over it. You're like, ooh, that's fucked up. But you kind of just say, well, I mean, he was a cartel boss. You know, other cartels are going to come and kill your ass if you're not the best at being a cartel boss. I kind of think of it like that. Like, yeah, you're a health insurance CEO. You're naturally in a line of work that's very shameless and ruthless and brutal. And you profit off of the fear of poor health of Americans. And that kind of position of wealth, power, influence, and getting all that wealth, power, and influence in that way naturally puts you in a position where you inherit some level of risk. I actually find it very interesting. What the fuck is a Colombian necktie? It's when the cartel guys do it. I've seen it done in videos, but, like, basically the process is they take a Bowie knife, or sometimes something even crazier like a machete. They cut someone's throat, and then if you do it the right way, the tongue is all one long muscle. And so you can actually separate the tongue from the throat and pull it out through a slit in the throat, like from the mouth all the way down, so the tip of the tongue comes out the throat hole, and you can pull it out even further and tie it, or, like, pull it down. And it looks like a tie. That's called a Colombian necktie. You basically slit someone's throat, pull their tongue out through their throat, and it looks like they're wearing a tie made of their own tongue. It's what the cartel does to people. One of the things the cartel does to people. There are a lot of things that if, like, the cartel wants to kill you horribly, that they'll do. Everything from chainsaw to the neck to the Blood Eagle type. Yeah, Blood Eagle. You know about that, Pepper 221. For those who don't know what a Blood Eagle is, it's the way that one guy died in Midsummer, where they, like, splayed his ribcage open. Yeah, cartel comes up with some fucked ways to kill people, dude. It's wild. That's wild, holy shit. Yeah. It's like, dude, if you're going to be in a line of work where you naturally incur some level of risk like that, no one's going to cry when the worst comes to worst. It's like when I see someone skydiving and their parachute doesn't deploy, I don't get even the slightest bit sad for them. You want to know why? Because I don't want that to happen to me. And the way I avoid that happening to me is by refusing to skydive. I refuse to skydive because I know that my parachute could fail and I might fall to my death and die. Probably the worst way for me to die. I would rather drown to death than fall to my death. So, or burn to death. I would take burning, drowning, getting eaten alive, and I think even, like, there's quite a few awful, painful ways I'd rather die than falling. Because I die scared and afraid if I died falling. I wouldn't die too afraid if I was like if, say, I got burned alive, right? I wouldn't be scared. I'd just be screaming and in pain, but not terrified. I hate heights, dude. Regardless, though, another thing I find interesting about this as well is, you know how people who are, like, big-time dick riders for capitalism, they argue that CEOs deserve their massive wealth because they incur a lot of risk. Now, to some extent, I agree with this argument. It is objectively true that as a CEO, or as like the business owner, the capital owner, you're incurring a lot of risk. You usually invest a lot of capital into starting a business, and even once you've made a lot of money, one mistake from you, one poor decision, one even tweet from you as like the CEO of the company could belly it up, kill your company, kill all your profits. You might have to file a company bankruptcy, and it could ruin you, right? You incur a lot of risk, and so there is some truth to that. How much that risk means you deserve an insane, disproportionate pay to your workers, I think they stretch it quite a bit. But part of that argument of risk of like being a CEO, is that not also being a target for things like corporate espionage, targeted attacks from criminals who might just recognize your power and wealth as something that puts a target on your back? Like, these are aspects of that risk that capitalists frequently tout as being reasons that CEOs are brave people who deserve their wealth and success. As a CEO, you risk people coming after you like this. You risk all your decisions possibly being the end of hundreds or thousands of employees' career. You know, there's all these arguments they make about how much work it is to be a CEO, how risky it is to be a CEO, how CEOs live hard lives or do hard work that makes them deserve their success and wealth. Something like this happens, and all of a sudden it's, oh no, this isn't okay, and it's like, nah, I'd say this is for once a case in which you could say, you see, guys? You see? As a CEO, you risk this happening to you. That's why they make this much money. This is why you don't want to be a CEO or a capital owner, because this could be what happens to you. Like, if they went that route, they totally could have, and their argumentation would be consistent at least, but they didn't. Now they claim, like, oh no, we need to make sure that CEOs feel safe, and it's like, okay, I guess. But then at that point, why shouldn't we consider CEOs pampered, baby, overpaid pieces of shit? Damn, yeah, it sure is such hard work exploiting your way to a cushy seat on the backs of others few couldn't imagine. True. I still find it crazy that they're making a CEO emergency line before one for school shootings. Real. Holy shit, that is a good point. Remrad, that is a really good point. And honestly, I think on that point is where I'm going to leave this topic. If you guys enjoyed this segment, then please consider leaving a like, a thumbs up, or a comment. It really does help a lot. Likes and comments actually boost my channel and the algorithm immensely. They're totally free, and it really does help a ton and means a lot, so thank you to everybody who does that. Subscribe and ring the bell icon to turn on all notifications if you haven't already, so that YouTube actually tells you when I go live or upload a new video, because believe me, if you don't, they won't. And if you want to see more from me on other platforms, follow my social medias linked down below in the description too if you haven't already, including my Blue Sky and my Discord server. That's where I'm really popping off the most. That's where I'm most active too. And finally, if you want to support me directly, financially of course, to help me keep the lights on and a roof above my head here at the Xander Hall studio, then please, if you can afford it, consider donating, subscribing, or gifting a sub on my website, xanderhall.com/live, or support me through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, StreamElements, Patreon, or buy some merch through the Streamlabs link down below in the description. Regardless of how you support me though, I really do appreciate it, and as always, I hope you have a good one.